Hello and welcome to episode 409 of the No Sugarcoating podcast. I am your host, Amber Romaniuk. Thank you for being here with me. Welcome, all you beautiful souls from all over the world. We have got a good episode this week. I'm freaking pumped about this one. So without further ado, today's topic is breaking down the signs of food obsession, what fuels food obsession, and ways to start taking your power back. And what's really interesting about food obsession is it's pretty much like food addiction. They're very similar. And you might be going, I don't have a food addiction, but just hear what I have to say. You can heal food addiction and food obsession. I healed it too. I help my clients do it every day. So just rest assured. And I think it's really important for you to hear the depths of this so that you can start to take steps to get support and or take steps to start dealing with it. So before we dive in, holy moly, like I'm wearing my poncho today. Winter has made a bit of a comeback. It's supposed to snow tomorrow. Anyways, how is the weather where you are in your part of the world? I'm really excited for real spring and the grass turn green and leaves will probably start coming onto the trees in May sometime, which is always nice. Just craving nicer weather, getting outside more, putting the feet in the grass once the ground thaws. Yeah. I love being Canadian. I love living in, Alberta, the province I do, but sometimes it's just like, okay, we're ready for winter to be over. So a little fun fact. So let's dive into the announcements. I just had a moment. It's funny. I was just thinking, Phil's taking me on a date to our favorite restaurant. It's a delicious. They do like gluten-free ginger beef and they make the best. We don't do like fish sushi, but we have like the avocado rolls and they make the best bison burger and we're going there. And I was just thinking about that and I got really excited and then blanked out. So yeah, date day on the weekend is going to be super fun. So the show notes for today's episode are found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/409. So a couple of quick reminders. If you're listening through this episode today and you're going, oh my goodness, I can relate and identify to everything that you were talking about or most of what you were talking about. I feel like this is me. What do I do? Where do I start? I just want to share with you that this is something that I help my clients with one-on-one in all my programs on a daily basis. I had someone ask a question, if I come and we start working together, what do we start working on first? If you are struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, food obsession, we really start heavily working on that first while supporting things like reducing bloating, boosting energy levels, starting to regulate your hormones. But the mindset, emotional work is the biggest piece of this journey when you're struggling with emotional relationship with food. So there's a lot of support given to that because I want you to start catching your triggers, clearing out the obsessive beliefs, thoughts, and behaviors. I want you to start taking your power back with food because that helps to amplify the healing with your digestive health and less bloating and better bowel health and less inflammation. That helps your hormones regulate more easily, regulating and balancing your thyroid, hypothyroid, Hashimoto's. It helps with reducing and balancing your cortisol. It helps resolve other diagnoses and symptoms. I'm actually going to touch on that quickly and just share a note that a previous client shared with me after, we'd wrapped up working together with a diagnosis that she had that is now gone because of the healing work. So, essentially, depending on what your highest concerns are is what we work on first. But if there's self-sabotage with food, we have to start there because it's amplifying all the physical issues, mental health, emotional health, energy, vibration, everything else. And we take it at a pace that feels good for you. So food for thought, if you are wanting to connect and talk more about one-on-one and what is available, you can click the link in the show notes or go to amberapproved.ca, click schedule a consultation and book your 30-minute body freedom call. So there is that. And then of course there is a wide array of, little masterclasses and the Body Freedom membership and other things that you can come into. I'm still trying to decide when I want to do Body Freedom Unleashed. It's the group program, 7-month group program to overcome emotional eating, binge eating. But I'm undecided of when to drop that right now, just because there's been so much going on. We're going to be having my mom's celebration of life in May. And I just don't want to overwhelm my nervous system and try and do too much at once. So I will let you know when that's coming. But if you want to come and join the group program, make sure you go to amberapproved.ca, click online programs, and then there's a wait list and you can put your email on it. And then you'll be the first to be notified with the most awesome early bird price offering as well. And to be one of the first people to secure your spot when it does come. Okay. So like I said, I had a client and we did a video testimonial. I'm loving the video testimonials. It's just so nice to do them. So that you can hear right from my clients, my previous clients, the experiences they've had, right? They all reached out to me for different yet like similar reasons, and the progression and the healing and the miracles that they've experienced is just absolutely a gift to witness them through. And so my lovely past client, Alex, we were talking, and obviously she had a, self binge eating, emotional eating, really intensive self-sabotage with food. And we were talking about how doing the mindset work, the ego work, healing her relationship with food actually helped her heal her PCOS. Yeah. You heard that right. And there's no issues anymore. And that's because our self-sabotage with food fuels the inflammation, fuels the insulin resistance, fuels the things that are fueling these kinds of imbalances. So when we are willing to address the roots, miracles happen. Like I'm always saying, the body's always trying to heal. We just get in the way. So if you want to watch that full success story, I'll put it in the show notes. You can also go to my YouTube it's Amber Romaniuk, and you can watch all the success stories that are dropping, or watch them on the website under success stories. But that was just super powerful to hear her share. And then of course, one thing I want to remind you of is don't compare your journey. If you hear me talking about a success story with a client, or you're reading or watching through success stories and you're going, oh, like I'm not healing as fast, or it's taking me longer, like don't be hard on yourself. Everyone's on a different journey. It's going to take a different amount of time for everybody. Don't be hard on yourself. Let your journey unfold the way that it's supposed to. I just wanted to share that because it's different for everyone. And I've learned that a lot too through when I healed to food and body freedom, and then in my business. Like it can be so easy to compare, like, oh, this person's growing faster than me, or this. And it's like, no, like I'm on my journey. I trust my timing. I trust them exactly where I'm meant to be. Right. So food for thought. So now let's dive into today. I just wanted to share some fun things, a little more personal life stuff too. Right. It's kind of fun. Sometimes I forget, to be honest, because I'm like, I've got so much to talk about in this episode today. So breaking down the signs of food obsession, which, like I said, to me is very similar to food addiction, and it's deeper than you think. Like food obsession is very deep-seated. There's many layers to this, just like I'm always talking about with relationship with food, because it is true. And one of the biggest reasons behind it being so multi-layered and complex is that you're dealing with the mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the ego, brain patterning, neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, brain chemistry, right? All the rules and nonsense we've been taught by big food and the diet industries, all the chemicals and highly addictive ingredients being put into food that can literally give you the massive dopamine high, mess with your mood, your blood sugar, your cravings, your appetite levels, right? Like it's so much more than just like, I should just be able to have balance with food. Well, if you're deep into this food obsession addiction piece, it's more complex than just that. And it does take some time to sift through and work through healing it. But the beauty of it is then you get to gain freedom, and freedom from food and freedom of and peace of mind is, to me, like one of the most liberating things that we can create, because then you have so much more mental space to enjoy life and be present and enjoy food, and you get to have a beautiful relationship with food. And then when you're done with it, you move on. I mean, yeah, obviously now that I know we're going to our favorite restaurant this week, like I'm excited and I'll think about it for a minute, but then I move on. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't wait to go. And like, we're going to eat these things. And like, I'm getting, like, I know what I'm going to get, because it's always so good, but I'm not obsessing. I just like, oh, I'm excited. And then I'm like, okay, and moving on. Now I'm excited to record the podcast. I'm in podcast mode. Right. But before it would be like control and obsessing and asphyxiating and like planning what I was going to have, and like the restriction afterward and all the stuff. Right. So I get it. So food obsession really is, let's start breaking it down. So you're thinking about food nonstop, essentially, whether it's obsessing over your next binge or emotional eating episode. So I'm going to share a couple of examples of what I used to do. And I see some clients that have done this as well. But essentially, when I used to work retail, I worked at Lululemon for a few years. And I remember if I had a bad day, or if they brought in snacks because we reached our goal, I'd like start eating the cheese and crackers, and then that would mess up my day of like perfect diet eating, right? So then I'd eat that, and then I'd have like hummus and crackers, and then I'd have like some of the candy they brought in, and then I'd start to think about, well, F it, I've messed up my day now. So on the way home, I'm going to stop at the organic store, because you've heard me talk about this before. I tried to justify that buying the food at the organic store was better. It's not. When you're eating volume of food, it doesn't matter what the quality is. Anyways, so I was like, I would just go into the F mentality and be like, on the way home, I'm going to get a pint of ice cream. I'm going to get a sandwich. I'm going to get pasta. I'm going to get cheese and crackers. I'm going to get chocolate, candy, yogurt covered pretzels. maybe some chips, like, oh, it just brings up all kinds of like deep compassion and love for myself for what I went through. Some cookies, an oat fudge bar, a raspberry oat muffin. Like I just vividly remember the things that I would used to go and buy. And I would like plan it out. I would think about it like, oh, I'm going to be on this part of the city today. So I'm going to go here because whatever, F it, I've had a bad day or I've already eaten junk. So I'm going to go to this certain bakery and get these cupcakes or do this thing. And I'd like plan it out. Same with the restriction. Okay, like I'm going to eat these foods. All I'm bringing to the house is these foods. I can't have anything else. If I go to this barbecue, I'm bringing a salad and I'm only eating it. Like it was just very rigid and very trying to have control. And, you know, the other thing about the going to the store, because I would probably go to the organic store multiple nights a week if I was in a binge phase. And if I was just at the store the night before, I made very, you know, much the effort to go to a different cashier so they hopefully wouldn't notice me and notice that I was back again buying all the exact same food in a big volume again, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, I don't want them to notice and like judge me. I don't want anyone to know like what I'm up to, right? So there's like that shame, that guilt, that embarrassment. You know, do you feel that? Does that come up for you? But yeah, so I would do that, right? Another example, like thinking about the next family event or social gathering and worrying about losing control or obsessing about all the things that I would, you know, I'm going to overindulge on because once I get back home, I'm back on my diet, back in the restriction, right? And with obsession, there is no balance. It's like all or nothing, black and white. I'm either all in trying to be perfect or I'm falling way off. It's a complete loss of control. You don't have control. There's not intentionality. There's not mindfulness. It is just this complete like loss of control and just you're all over the place with your thoughts, your emotions. But most of what fills your mind through the day is thoughts about food, numbers, weighing, measuring, calories, weight, the scale, control, cravings, what you're going to binge on, what you're going to restrict. You know, and that would be me. Like, I would just be like, oh, like it's Easter. I'm only going to have like turkey and like potatoes. And then later in the evening, I'd be like, F it, I want everything. And I'd like binge on the, you know, the mini eggs and had like 5 pieces of carrot cake and like made like turkey buns and like binge until I was so full I was sick and then cry the whole 3.5 hour drive the way home the next day because I lost control again. Like I really get it. And I have a lot of compassion for you, regardless of where you're at on the spectrum, whether it's the same or less intensive, because it really takes over. And it's hard to be present and enjoy life and feel empowered when you're in this state, right? So it's things like that are part of signs of food obsession. Another sign is obsessing about the next diet you're going to do, planning out your meals, like not just, hey, I'm going to do food prep Sunday and make different things to have good food available. I'm talking like you're taking out a calendar, you're writing down everything you're going to have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. You're not allowing yourself to step out of that. And if you do, then you go into the effort mentality and you self-sabotage, right? Counting calories, control. It's control for fear of losing control and thinking you need more willpower to prevent falling back into binges, emotional eating, or old behaviors. Because what's below that is the unworthiness that I don't feel good enough, the void that you're trying to fill with food and control and restriction and binge eating or everything in between. And you're chasing numbers like I talked about last week. You're chasing a calorie count, you're chasing control, you're chasing willpower, you're chasing to have a certain weight, right? So it's very deep. And we're obsessing about controlling food as well, because there could be that potential second obsession of weight loss and or needing to look a certain way to be approved of. And if you haven't listened to last week's episode on chasing numbers, which is like the scale, food, calories, money, etc., make sure you go and listen to episode 409 of the or 408 of the podcast, amberproof.ca/podcast/408, or on, of course, all your favorite podcast apps or YouTube, because I do record video on YouTube if you want to watch there. But yeah, you'll want to make sure you listen to that because it's very tied in. One of the reasons we get into food obsession is we're chasing the number on the scale and the clothing size. And it becomes a very unhealthy dynamic that we get into. So let's keep breaking this down. What's resonating with you so far? I'm so curious to hear. Leave it in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram or email me. As well, when we're in this food obsession, you will use food when you aren't actually hungry to cope with different things going on in life. So this is where we get into the emotional eating, the binges, and the food addiction. So you'll eat in reaction to an emotional circumstance you're feeling, whether it's happiness, sadness, fear, worry, anger, frustration, discomfort. right? You'll eat in reaction or response to positive or negative news or feedback. Like when I used to get negative feedback, I would binge because I'd take it so personally and I get so hard on myself. And then I'd want to people please, right? And it just, vicious cycle. You eat when you're not actually physically hungry, right? So let's talk, just quick reminder, but I've done other episodes on this, but physical hunger, when we're physically hungry, that's when we want to nourish our bodies. But emotional eating, binge eating is eating for any reason other than physical nourishment. So you're bored, you're tired, you're sad, you're happy, you just finished dinner and you're full, but now you want to dig through the cupboard because you created that pattern. You eat and watch TV, you're right, stressed. So you need to pull out the chips or the chocolate bar and numb out your emotions, distract from feeling, avoid feeling. Now, if you're like, I'm not doing that, but I don't get it, I don't know what hungry feels like, there may actually be a thyroid issue going on, because if our thyroid's off, it impacts our metabolism, which impacts the production of our hunger hormone. And we produce ghrelin that makes us hungry and leptin that makes us full. And those hunger hormones can get really thrown off if our blood sugar's off or hormones are out of balance and we have a really skewed relationship with food or very high stress levels. So that's something that I'm always looking at with my clients and doing hormone testing and looking at those hunger hormones, the appetite levels, making sure you have clarity of what hunger feels like and that we get that hunger signal back for you. If you don't have it, you want hunger signals, you don't not want them, because when you don't have them, you assume you don't need to eat, but that's messing up your metabolism, your thyroid even more, and setting you up an increased chance of increased overeating and binges later in the day. Another thing, another layer of, the signs of food obsession is you start eating something and then you get that dopamine high, that pleasure response. You start eating, you're like, oh my God, this is so good. And then you go into that F it mentality. You're like, F it, like I've already messed up. I had that. I want more. F it. I'll start my diet again tomorrow, right? I'm eating what I want for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month. I'll start again later, right? I better eat this now because once I get back on my diet, I won't be able to have it again. There's that restrictive lack mentality that comes in so strong. And if you do binge or emotionally eat, then you restrict afterward. You feel guilty, you feel angry, you feel frustrated. Now I have to compensate. So I'm going to restrict. I'm going to go and try and do more exercise, right? This is where mindless movement comes in. It's a punishment. It's no longer for enjoyment. It's like, oh my God, I've got to go burn calories to compensate. That is unhealthy relationship with exercise versus healthy, being like, I move because I love it. It makes my body feel good. It boosts my mood. I release stress. I feel connected and in tune. If you eat really restrictively or you lack a lot of variety and you get bored, you will rebel, and that can trigger self-sabotage. And that's part of the food obsession. Elimination diets and heavily restrictive protocols can fuel it. If you're in obsession with calorie counting, food point planning, right? The Jenny Craigs, the Weight Watchers, and being so 100% rigid that you need to be perfect on the meal plan. You need to follow your points and you're getting hard on yourself if you like stray at all. That's part of this, right? Maybe you won't go to certain places, or you're avoiding going on certain trips to certain events, houses, etc., for fear of losing control with food. That is part of that. Like I went through that personally. I sometimes made choices to not go because I knew I'd lose control and I didn't want to. So I think sometimes we can use discretion and go, you know what, like I'm feeling vulnerable. I feel like it would be better for now if I didn't go. And then as you gain traction, you'll have no issue doing that, but it's up to you how you want to navigate your journey. I don't make people do that. We just talk about what feels like the most empowering, safe, comfortable decision for you. And then you get to do that. With the food obsession, you label food as good food, bad food, right? There's a deep guilt if you eat anything that's bad, right? Yes, some foods are more processed than others. However, as you heal your relationship with food, you want to neutralize these labels. Like I'm always saying, I can eat whatever I want. I choose to put like the most awesome nourishing foods in my body as often as possible. And I also choose mindful indulgence sometimes. And it's about finding the balance that works for each of us. And that takes time. That does take healing. So don't be frustrated if you're not there yet, but know as you heal this, you will get to that place. And it's so peaceful and so liberating to get there. And like I said, don't compare your journey if you're not there yet. Another sign of this food obsession is you're obsessed with all the food having to be organic, or you don't go and eat at restaurants because they might use crappy oils, or you don't go to eat at restaurants because they're not doing all organic or whatever it is. And you feel that you need to be in control, right? And so you literally just don't live life outside your house with food. And you have food fears, right, that need to be dismantled. There's something called orthorexia nervosa, which is like only eating the same 15 to 20 foods, and you fear going outside of that for fear of gaining weight, fear of losing control, fear of old symptoms coming back because restriction helped you gain relief from symptoms. And that's not how we heal symptoms. We heal and gain relief truly from symptoms via healing our relationship with food, doing a lot of ego mindset work, learning how to love ourselves and mend our relationship with our inner child, and then going in and balancing the different body systems, the different digestive organs, the hormones, immune system, inflammation, lymphatic system, etc. And as you do that, you'll not have to be as so restrictive because you're actually got to the roots. Restrictive diets don't give us long-term results. They just can, you know what I mean? Like it's not realistic for you to have to eat like that for the rest of your life. So be willing to heal orthorexia because it's very limiting. And I personally wish all food was organic because I think that, like it's the most nourishing for us and least pesticides, but we have to be realistic. But look for the farmers markets, look for the local markets, befriend your local farmers and get to know them and try and support them because they produce the most high integrity food. Other signs of food obsession, you judge others' eating habits or health habits, you judge others' weights and bodies, right? We're all human. We all judge people sometimes, but if you're going deep into judgment, specifically with food things, it's a good mirror, right? You eat differently when you're alone versus around others, right? So binges, overeating, or restricting, whatever that looks like. Like I've had clients who are like, oh, my family's leaving for the weekend. I'm going to just binge my way through the weekend because no one will see what I'm doing. And others who will binge out with the friends because everyone's doing it together, and or they will restrict with friends, but then binge when they get home. Are you doing any of that? I'm curious. You make drinking water part of your meal to fill you up to compensate for overeating the previous day and or to try and lose weight. But please don't do this because then you won't. You'll get a false signal of full. You'll be hungry really fast. And then that can lead to overeating or binging. Extreme diets, diet addiction, overdoing exercise versus mindful movement. This is all part of this. Of course, any kind of emotional eating, compulsive eating, stress eating, getting cravings, even though you're full, there's usually an emotional connection and or a physical imbalance that's fueling the craving. Unexpectedly eating more than you plan to and or binging your way through after you had one thing, you're like, I have to eat it all because I need it to be out of the house. Otherwise I'll lose control again. Feeling guilty after you've eaten something, especially an indulgent or bad food, quote unquote, right? And then that fuels more self-sabotage or then fuels restriction. Creating and overwhelming yourself with lots of food rules. And that can happen easily when we've done a lot of diets because they instill a lot of things into our subconscious mind. And that's not your fault. Hiding eating from others. Maybe you grew up where like you were always the last one to the table, so you didn't get the dessert, and then you'd go and take your allowance and you'd go to the store and like buy a bunch of stuff and hide in the closet and eat it so you didn't have to share it with anyone. And that created binge eating issues for you. Like all kinds of childhood stuff really can have an impact. I feel like I have cucumber in my tooth. Here's a big one. And I find this happened to me and it still didn't make a difference. I still had to have the low point moment happen. But even though you are in self-sabotage with food, you're binging, you're emotionally eating, you're binging and purging, whatever it is that you're doing, it's fueling health issues. It's amplifying your symptoms. It's making your bloating worse. It's making your pain worse. It's making you gain more weight. It's impacting your mood more negatively. It's making your skin issues worse. It's amplifying your hormone issues. Your cravings are worse. You're gaining, right? Like essentially you're hurting your body, yet you can't stop. You can't stop or give up the habit because in the moment there's so much going on mentally and emotionally that it's hard to just stop this behavior. In fact, it's next to impossible because there's, as you can hear me talking about this, there's so much going on that is having an impact and playing a role. So if this is you and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to keep hurting my body, but I don't know how to change it, you're in the right place. Keep listening to the podcast. Honestly, if you have the means to do so, I really encourage you to book a 30-minute body freedom call so we can connect and explore support, because it is life changing when we invest, we change our lives. I saw that quote one day. I'm like, yes. And you don't want your symptoms to get worse. You don't want to keep amplifying all of this because you like chasing the dopamine hit. You're in a comfort zone of control, trying to have control when you're out of control. You don't want to keep hurting your body. So I really do encourage you, if it's possible, to reach out and explore support because it could be the thing that helps you change your life forever. And that's actually one of the reasons I've had quite a few clients renew this month is because they're seeing massive results and change. And they're also seeing the depth of like, what is there to keep supporting and healing. And they're like, wow, like I see how deep this is. I get that it's going to take some time. I love the momentum, the healing, the progress, the results that are happening. And I want to go all the way. And it's always a blessing when the women want to continue because they really get the value and they get that going and completing it and really getting to the place they want to go is going to help them have this freedom for life. And like I've been saying, to me, food addiction is really, or food obsession is really food addiction. I know a lot of you don't like the word addiction. However, it can be fully resolved and you can gain full freedom with it, as I did and as I help my clients with every day. But yeah, it is very much an addiction. So what fuels food obsession? Well, restriction, lots of diets, restrictive diets, food rules, counting calories, right? Apps, point counting and planning, rigid meal planning, rigid mentalities, battling with your body and the weight and the scale and needing to chase those numbers. If you haven't, go listen to episode 408 after this. Connecting these two episodes together is like gold for you. Needing control with food because you fear losing it, even though you're completely out of control if you're in this food obsession all or nothing place. Because what's below the control is the fear of losing it. What's below that is I don't feel good enough. I'm not worthy. So I'm going to try and grip onto whatever I can to have control. Addictive ingredients fuel food obsession because sometimes it's honestly hard to stop eating things when you're in a food addiction, emotional eating, binge eating. It's hard to stop. And once you learn about ingredients and you like balance your body, like you can have these things sometimes and it doesn't give the same high, the same feeling, but I honestly choose to not really give my money to these companies that are pouring all this addictive crap and poison and garbage and chemicals into the food, because why would I want to give my money to a company that's like, we don't care about you. We want you addicted to and reliant on this food. Buy it. Like, sorry, no, I don't support big food. I want to support the local producers as much as I can. And we have our different values and we all get to choose the way that feels good for us. But that's, yeah, right. And through the commercials, the movies, the marketing, the advertising, it fuels food obsession because you see it, then you want it, then you eat it, then you crave it, and then you want to get it again. And then you have all the guilt and the negative emotion around why you lost control again and gain weight again and need to have more willpower. And it just feels that whole cycle. So the food industry plays a huge role in your food obsession. You should be a little bit pissed about it, to be honest with you, because they have these lab companies that literally test for the perfect dopamine high for you to eat this food and get the perfect high. So you stay addicted to it and reliant on it and keep eating it. And that you're going to hear more about that. I guarantee you in the next year, 1 to 5 years, you're going to hear so much exposure about that. And humanity needs to be pissed about that because that it should have never have happened. Our food should have never gone to the level of processing that it has to this day. We have so many resources to have farms and gardens and all these different things. It never needed to go the way that it did. So watch some food documentaries like Food Inc. and Fed Up and that sugar film. Like it really starts to open your eyes. Another thing that fuels the food obsession is you're constantly just attached on to this, like, I just need more willpower. I just need to try harder. No, none of those two are going to work. But it's your ego. The ego plays such a massive role in fueling food obsession because it's trying to convince you that you just need to try harder and have more willpower. It's trying to convince you just need to have control. It's trying to convince you that you just need to try a new diet again and try a little harder. It's convincing you need to restrict because you overdid it yesterday. It's trying to tell you you're not good enough because the number on the scale isn't what blah, 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 what it should be, what your ego thinks it should be. You're comparing yourself. You're getting hard on yourself. Your ego pushes you to people please, to prove, to overbook your schedule. The ego makes you feel overwhelmed and disempowered and out of your power. And then we want to numb, distract, and check out with food. We want the dopamine high. So the ego is one of the biggest pieces that is so important to work on. And I do that with all my one-on-one. The ego mastery program will definitely come later this year. And there is a waitlist on amberproof.ca, an online program. So you can leave your email if you want. But the ego is a huge piece. It's huge. You hear me talk about it all the time in the podcast. Chasing numbers and the weight obsession. So if you're obsessed with needing to be a certain number and you think, unless I am, I'm not going to be happy. I need my clothing to be a certain size. And if it's not, I'm not living like the same. I'm not giving myself permission to be happy, right? Like that's all ego disempowerment. I'm unworthy and I'm tying my worth up with a number, and no external number will fill your void and make you feel worthy. That is inside healing and work to do. Now, when I say work, like I don't mean that it's going to be like work. It's so different. It's an experience. It's fulfilling. It's liberating. It's empowering. It's freeing. Blood sugar imbalances, cravings, gut flora issues, hormone imbalances, poor sleep and dehydration, dopamine and serotonin deficiencies that keep your mood low. A lot of physical symptoms will feel food obsession because they throw your appetite levels off. They skew your hunger hormones. They fuel your cravings. They make you very unclear of hunger and fullness. So of course that will fuel food obsession because it's easy to overeat and then you want to restrict to try and compensate. One of the core pieces that fuels food obsession, though, is the unworthiness. I don't feel good enough. I'm insecure. I don't like my body. Lack of self-love in this void that you're trying to fill with food that you're never going to fill with food, that we want to heal. And as we heal to food and body freedom, we fill that void. And then the food obsession falls away. Undoing a lot of old negative thoughts and limiting beliefs and bringing in new. It's the repetition of catching the old and bringing in new. That ultimately shifts our subconscious mind. We've been programmed all these years with a repetition of commercials, marketing, ads, diets, etc. Now we want to bring in better positive stuff and clear out the old. Being an empath and being sensitive to energy, because then you take on other people's stuff and then it gets heavy and uncomfortable. And then you're like, I just want to check out and numb out with food, right? I've already touched on this, but the people pleasing, overbooked schedules, overwhelm, no time for you or very little, and being low on your priority list. And I get it. You have a family, you're in a profession, you have a career, you have a business, you have a job, you have kids, you're volunteering, you're in school. Like, I'm not saying you have to quit everything and like just do self-care, but what I'm saying is recognize the guilt you feel when you consider taking time for yourself and you let yourself talk yourself out of it because the guilt takes over and it's too heavy to feel. That's where the coaching really comes in and is really helpful because we can help you clear out the guilt, take your power back and start to feel safe taking some time for you and building in that balance into your schedule the way that works best for you. We look at your schedule. Don't make you do the same routine I have because we all have different lives, just different circumstances and different schedules. And I find this is one of the things that really differs between coaching and therapy. And obviously you're going to make the decision that feels best for you. I have some clients who do coaching with me and do therapy, and I'm not, discounting therapy. However, with therapy, it's more so you go and you talk and you express, right? And they just listen to you. And sometimes that's all we need is to just express and have a safe space to share. However, with coaching, where it's different is I listen, but then I point out negative thoughts, limiting beliefs. I give suggestions, recommendations, and things for you to take action on as well, giving you tools, giving you guidance and support, like all the way through the journey. And I find that really helps us make the shift because talking about it is one thing, but then we have to learn about the ego and build awareness and understand why we've been the way that we've been. There's physical things to support. So it just depends. Like you can do both. I've had clients quit therapy and come to coaching because it's more helpful. You're going to do the path the way that feels best for you. But that's one of the biggest differences is there's more accountability. And, we really want to catch and shift out of those negative thoughts and beliefs and patterns that are amplifying all this food obsession and self-sabotage. Another thing that fuels the food obsession is the fear of facing what is truly fueling all of this and resisting, procrastinating, and or continuing to avoid doing your deeper healing and not working on this, right? Which may feel safe for a while or comfortable for a while, but then the suffering keeps growing and your life keeps being impacted and you can't get that time back. So this is where I'd really encourage you, if it's resonant, reach out for support from whoever you feel called to. It doesn't have to be me. Obviously, I'm going to plug myself. It's my podcast, it's my business. I get what you're going through. I've helped so many women through this. However, if you're like, I'm listening and now I've got this like fire under my butt, I'm going to reach out to this person. Like, please do it. I just want you to heal so you can be happy and free and like live your most incredible life without all of this dragging this, right? I haven't brought this up in a while. The 75-pound like orange couch from the 80s, like stop dragging this huge burden along with you. All this past, this behavior, like, oh, it's heavy. It's exhausting. I want you to let it go. That's all I want for you. I want you to do it in the way that you feel most empowered doing it. That makes me happy. So let's talk about ways to start taking your power back. Okay. Number one is to be aware. And I started identifying, wow, I'm doing these things. Wow. A lot of what you said today, I'm going to admit it. Just be honest with yourself. Have compassion, be gentle with yourself. Number two is starting to build awareness around, okay, like based on what Amber mentioned today, like, what do I feel like I'm doing? Am I doing the restriction? Am I just convincing myself I need more willpower? Am I overbooked and avoiding facing my stuff? Am I in fear of feeling my feelings? Am I, obsessed with controlling my calories? Am I planning my next binge? Like, what is it? Is it all of it? Some of it, right? Awareness is the first step. Admitting is the first step. Awareness is the next step. As you build awareness, you can start to actually make shifts and changes and start taking your power back. Get a journal. I ask lots of questions in these episodes. Write down questions that feel resonant. And even if you can just spend 5 or 10 minutes a couple days a week, ideally, I want to say every day, but perfection doesn't exist. But even just a couple days a week to start like journaling and exploring and answering questions, because it helps you reflect, it helps you understand, it helps you build awareness around what's going on. Be willing to open up some time for self-care. Get to bed a little earlier. Maybe it's hydration you want to focus on, but building one little habit at a time to help start reducing the things that are fueling the food obsession. Honestly, be willing to get support. I know I keep saying it, and it's because it is life-changing. Getting support, hiring a coach, a mentor, a therapist, whoever, whatever it is, it helps to change your life and help you gain freedom from this. I walk with my clients every step of the way, one step at a time, at your pace, baby steps, gently, right? In the safe space to help you heal this and overcome it. No pushing, no forcing, no rushing, making sure, we have sessions. I always say to my client, how does this feel to you? Do you have any questions? Does this feel good? And if it doesn't, then we reroute and regroup and reorganize, because I want you to feel good about what you're doing, right? And I want you to feel encouraged and empowered. And I think that's really important when you're getting support. So this is a safe space. It's life-changing. Go and watch some of the success stories. Like, they speak for themselves. But it's very healing work, right? Maybe for you, part of what you want to focus on is continuing to build awareness. Listen to the podcast. There's over 400 episodes. I have so many women that email me that go, I'm so grateful for your podcast. I've shared it with all of my friends. And I am learning so much about my mind, my relationship with food, my ego, etc. And at the same time, know the podcast is, if it fully helps you heal, amazing, but it's not meant to I don't want to say that it's not meant to help you fully heal, because it might, but if you're listening and you're still struggling, I do encourage you to supplement with support if you're able to, in whatever way you see fit. Another way you can start taking your power back is starting to set healthy boundaries with, right, all the advertising, and slowing down on the diets and not weighing in as much, and starting to sit down and eat mindfully and slow down with your food. These are all little baby step things you can start with that will make a huge difference. Get to bed a little bit earlier, set boundaries with your phone, less social media time so that you're not comparing so much and then getting triggered and then self-sabotaging with food again. I think that there's a lot of things you can do. And something I've been loving ending the podcast with is the little visualization. I've done it the last couple of episodes, and I've had some of you reach out and share how much you've enjoyed it. So I want to go through another little visualization, because I think the more we can plant this stuff in your subconscious mind, the more you're going to manifest creating it into your reality. So I want you to just take a moment, as long as you're not driving, walking, or cycling, or, moving, and close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to envision what it would feel like for you to wake up feeling so energized and excited to go about your day, knowing you're powerful, you're enough, and whatever comes up, you can totally get through it. And I want you to envision what it would feel like to wake up not bloated, with a settled stomach, happy digestion, eating your meals through the day, and your digestion stays happy. You don't get bloated, right? Doesn't feel uncomfortable. I want you to envision what it would feel like to be able to go about your day and only think about food a couple of times. And think about it because it's oh, it's almost time for lunch. I'm hungry. Or, oh, okay, I just want to think about what I'm going to make for dinner later. Okay, I'm going to make that. Okay, I'm good. But that's it. No obsessing, no planning binges, no planning restriction. To actually be able to lean back in your chair and just feel more at ease with food. To feel happy living in your body, and to know that as you heal and you help her feel safe, your symptoms regulate more easily. As your body feels safe, she will release protection without force, without diets, restriction, or forcing mindless movement. You'll be able to move your body the way that you love. You find your balance with food. and she lets go. Think of what it would feel like to feel more confident, more calm, more power, more ease in your mind, because you're not, your mind isn't so full of all these thoughts about food and control and weight and numbers, etc. Think of how it would feel to never binge again, to never emotionally eat again, to eat mindfully, to use food as nourishment, and to be able to enjoy a mindful indulgence. Stop after you've had it, just feel excited and happy about it, and move on with your day. No guilt, no upset, no loss of control, just like, that's it. Who would you be if you were free of the binges, free of the emotional eating, free of the food obsession and addiction? How would you show up differently in your life? Think about that for a moment. Envision that. How would you show up with your spouse? Would you be more intimate? Would you feel more confident? How would you show up differently with your kids? What better habits are you passing on to them? How do you show up in your work, your business, your career, your job, expanding abundance, connection, expansion, success, better health, symptoms going away? What if you could heal something you were told was permanent, like my client with her PCOS? Miracles. What miracles are you open to receiving through this healing? Now, take as long as you want in this visualization. If you want to pause it now and just sit in this visualization and feel what it feels like to shift this, sit with it for as long as you want. Oh, but it feels so good. It feels so good. And you all deserve to have this. I want you to repeat after me. I am worthy to heal my relationship with food. I am worthy to feel happy living in my body. I'm worthy to make peace with my body. I am worthy to make peace with food. I am worthy to have the most incredible life beyond my wildest dreams. And I am worthy to step into the woman I've always dreamed of being. Or man. I know guys are listening too. It feels so good. So I'm going to leave you with that on that high note. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope it gave you clarity. The show notes are available at amberapproved.ca/podcast/409. As I said earlier, if you are now really eager to reach out for support, amberapproved.ca, schedule a 30-minute body freedom consultation. You can also email me, info@amberapproved.ca. I'm happy to chat with you as well and give you details. If you are also wanting to check out more about me, you can go to amberapproved.ca. You can take the free emotional eating quiz, learn more about body freedom. You can watch and read through the dozens and dozens and dozens of success stories that are available to get a bit more of a vibe as well. And of course, subscribe and share the podcast with everybody you think could resonate with it, because as I always say in the extra of this, it's like the more I can help more heal, the better. That's why I'm on this planet. So I'm just sending you so much love. I hope you have the most amazing day, the most amazing week. Holy moly, how are we already almost like through the second half of the month going into May? It's like, I can't honestly believe it. I'm really excited to have quite a lovely guest on the show next weekend, and we're going to talk about a healing journey and some really profound things. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. I'm not going to share any more for now. You'll just have to come and listen. Otherwise, have a beautiful day, a great week. I'm cheering you on and sending you a lot of love. And I look forward to sharing that guest episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care.